trust our friends, not thinking they're going to hurt us or do anything evil to us. I'm sure that's what she thought.
This is the most brutal homicide that I've made in my 7 years in Houston homicide.
The brutal murder of a teenage girl.
A wonderful girl.
The beaten body of 15-year-old Corianne Cervantes.
Always smiling.
Discovered in a vacant Clear Lake apartment over the weekend.
She was wonderful, and we're going to miss that every day.
A so-called satanic murder.
Satanic ritual.
A deal with the devil.
One of the suspects actually went to school with the victim.
They discussed the fact that Mr. Reyes had sold his soul to the devil.
Now we are learning more about the circumstances of her death.
Well, how much worse can this get?
And the two teens accused of capital murder.
These are your options. Talk to us. Stop this lying. Save yourself.
That's when I just put my bed around like this and I put in the loop.
He has the audacity to write someone and say, I stabbed the hoe 60 times. She was not a hoe! 10, 20, 30, 40, 50, 60.
There's no God in there. There's no empathy in there. There's no feeling in there, because there's no way he could do those acts. He's just different.
So you know why we're here?
Yes, ma'am.
Maybe this story should read, is good did overcome evil. But unfortunately, Corianne is still not with us.
Saturday, February 8, 2014, 0406 and 48 seconds.
Here's a fire medical. What's the location emergency?
Yeah, I found a lady. She looked deceased. She was in a vacant apartment. Looks like she'd been assaulted. I'm not sure exactly what happened. The name of the apartment is the Bays.
You know, she wasn't found for 5 days.
And you said she's not awake?
She's not. She is cold as ice, and I could not find a pulse. So
Okay.
I think she's deceased.
This 15-year-old girl is just laying there. Her family not knowing where she is, if she is alive or dead. How cold it must have been in that apartment and how lonely it was.
It looks like there's the toilet bowl lid thing, for the back of the tank. It's smashed up all over the place. And I think that might be what they used to whatever.
Okay.
I don't understand how anybody on either side of this vacant apartment didn't hear a damn thing. This is ridiculous. She has no clothes, so I don't know if she has any identification.
Okay, you see any tattoos or anything visible, or?
No, ma'am. She does have looks like a scar on her. No, I can't tell if that's a scar or not on her chest. It could be blood.
Okay.
I've never seen that kind of extended torture, extended no regard for a human being.
And you said this could have happened a couple of hours ago?
Yeah, we were standing outside smoking a cigarette, and we heard some noise, but the people in this building, they get loud sometimes on the weekends, partying. So I just wrote it off as them getting loud. I didn't hear anything specific, like a struggle or anything like that. And I'm not sure what the hell happened in here, because there's a closet right next to where she's at, and there's blood all over the inside of that closet.
Okay.
So I'm not exactly sure what happened. She doesn't look like a squatter, though. She looks like somebody who's been taken, had a place to be.
I'm here with you.
Yeah, I heard him coming down the street.
You hear him?
Yeah.
Okay.
That's tough.
Now to the latest on the murder investigation in Southeast Houston. Investigators are looking into the death of a woman found.
They can't even begin to comprehend what police say happened here.
Had severe head trauma.
Literally, I have not been able to sleep.
Investigators are still trying to identify her.
I remember being at my grandma's house, sitting in the living room. I remember hearing her just scream. And I just knew something wasn't right. Once I heard her, it was, something's not okay.
The beaten body of 15-year-old Corianne Cervantes was discovered in a vacant Clear Lake apartment over the weekend. Now we are learning more.
I guess you try to zone out what happened and what, because you try to remember her how she was and not what they did to her. And then just hearing little by little every detail of everything that they did to her. Just, you don't want to believe it's her.
She was a typical teenage girl. Typical teenage girl, fun, loving, loved her friends, family, loved to go out, swimming.
She was beautiful.
She was beautiful.
She was beautiful. She had this olive skin. She was so pretty. She had dark hair and blue eyes. She was gorgeous. She was.
I always say it's that Cervantes tan.
Yeah.
That golden brown.
Pool was our thing. The pool. We stayed at the pool all the time. I really didn't have friends, so the only friend I would hang out with would be her.
Typical Texas teenagers and their typical Texas summers. Corianne and Alana were always together. Cousins, but more like sisters.
Basically a sister I didn't have.
Long, lazy days at Grandma's pool, sleepovers at night, makeovers and movies. Yeah, typical teens. That word, typical, comes up a lot when people talk about Corianne. She was just that, a 15-year-old girl who loved photography, being an older sister, and singing in her high school choir. Corianne lived for those hot Texas summers, but it was school where she thrived.
Her teachers were just in love with her. And then she discovered music, and she started singing. And she really loved it. I mean, she was all out into any performance they had. She was really into it. Typical teenage girl.
Typical, too, was a 15-year-old who wanted her independence.
She shared an apartment at that time with her dad. He had already separated from his wife, but she was living in the residence at the time, but they were already divorced. So I think there was some conflict there, and she was dealing with that. That day before, she had skipped school, and they had found out about it. So her dad had grounded her.
And my son went to the grocery store, and by the time he got back, she had left again. And her sister told her, she said, "Don't leave. Dad told you not to leave." She says, "I'll be right back." She said, "I'm just going to go see somebody. I'll be right back." And that was it.
And it's not like she was running away from home to leave Houston. She just got out of the apartment. And instead of them talking to her and helping her vent, they basically say, "Party with us." And when you're a young teenager and you're trying to forget your problems, someone offers you marijuana, maybe even a Xanax bar, and you can just let the world go away. That's what she did.
The night of February 4th, 2014, Corianne Cervantes never came home. The next afternoon, her grandmother arrived at school like she did every weekday to pick up her granddaughter. No Corianne. Catherine Cervantes called her son Corianne's father.
He thought, well, maybe she's spending the night with one of her friends. So that's where they started calling all the friends.
My mom texted me saying that Corianne was missing. And I was like, well, okay, thinking, okay, typical teenage girl, rebelling, maybe upset about something, not happy with what her parents told her. Let me text her. So I did. I texted her on Facebook, said, "Hey, sweetheart, it's me. What's going on?"
You hope when your kid is upset and they leave and they try and cool down. They have good friends that can talk them into, okay, this isn't the end of the world, this conflict. But instead, she went into the arms of Jose Reyes and his friend.
It had been 24 hours and no one had seen Corianne. No one knew that after she left home to party with other high schoolers, she disappeared down a stairwell with two teens, intoxicated, barely able to stand.
But it really started the night in motion. It started the night that would become a nightmare in motion.
No one knew the next morning, while her friends filed into homeroom, Corianne lay lifeless in apartment 5, that she would lay there for days, murdered by the boys she felt safe with.
She trusted them. Yeah. She trusted all of them. I mean, every single one of them.
Like teenagers do?
Yeah, like teenagers do. We trust our friends, not thinking they're going to hurt us or do anything evil to us. And I'm sure that's what she thought, just going to go hang out with my friends.
No one knew one of those boys would say he did it to sell his soul to the devil. Dark, dirty. A Houston police officer moved slowly through the vacant apartment in Clear Lake, Texas, on the morning of February 8th. Trash and clothes strewn about, yellow markers, and chunks of thick porcelain shattered next to a girl's partially naked body. It was 15-year-old Corianne Cervantes, but no one knew it then. Her face covered in blood, and more blood spattered on the carpet, walls, and door in a small closet under the stairs. Later, a crime scene investigator would say the stains on the ceiling appeared to have been made by blood-soaked hair. Corianne was murdered in that closet. But this morning, days later, it was quiet, still, save for a leaky faucet down the hall. There were crumpled sweats on the bathroom floor and the toilet with a missing tank lid.
I have now been doing this work for 25 years, and I've seen a lot of pain and a lot of horrible acts. This crime scene, the way they tortured her, was the worst I've ever seen.
What kind of brutality did she put up with prior to her finally dying? And it was so bad, you almost hope for death. That's how bad she was brutalized.
Corianne had 61 stab wounds on her body and 15 cuts to her head, the medical examiner would later determine, killed with a screwdriver and beaten with the top of that toilet tank.
Picks it up and smashes her head with it. But it just wasn't once. It was multiple times, because it breaks and then he picks up a broken piece and starts striking her about the head with it. Then they take the rods from the window blinds and they attempt to gouge out one of her eyes. And we know this because the hook that's attached to the rod is in her eye socket. They then take those rods and just start slapping her about her body. And we know this because the medical examiner says there's linear strikes while she's still alive. So it's like they're taunting her. They then stick those rods inside her. And then for good measure, they carve an upside down cross in her abdomen. So it wasn't enough that they killed her. They tortured her. And they treated her like she wasn't a human being.
And on the bloody door to that closet, a pentagram drawn.
And just the nature of the crime, you know it's sadistic. But then you have these other clues that suggest that there's some type of devil worship or something of that involved. It kind of quickly became the satanic murders. As soon as Corianne was found, it just lit up the local media.
And the school district here is offering counseling services.
We started hearing all the details coming out on the news. It wasn't even like they show, I guess, in the movies where a cop comes to your house and explains everything to you. It's literally, you're seeing it on the news like everybody else on what happened.
What was that like?
Anger.
And it was starting to hear what was done, you know, to her, because we didn't know.
At night, as I just sat there and cried, especially when more details would come out. It was like more and more details, and it was just like, well, how much worse can this get?
Gruesome details.
The gruesome detail.
Yeah, gruesome.
Even though it's like the police were trying to keep you out of it, you still heard it.
When I was 15, 16, that age, I didn't want to hear about it. You don't picture someone so close to you having to go through that and actually feel everything and go through it. Just her being alive and having to feel all that pain and suffering and everything that she went through.
Satanic murder had become a national headline. Corian's family couldn't bear it because she was a sister, a cousin, a best friend who loved singing and goofing around. But all that anyone was talking about was the brutal way she was killed. Meanwhile, investigators had a lot of evidence to process. What had happened to Corian in that apartment? Who was capable of that? Well, turns out they weren't capable of keeping quiet about what they did.
We had already processed, attempted to get swabs and things of that nature. There was nothing. We had no leads. Nobody was talking.
Nobody was talking to police, but to each other? Well, there was quite a bit of that going on. Rumors started circulating, accusations on social media, and the day after Corian was murdered, a teenage girl overheard something she couldn't shake. Her ex-boyfriend, 17-year-old Jose Reyes, telling his sister he and a friend killed a girl, stabbed her to death with a screwdriver, and stuck window blind rods in her.
So she's really not taking it seriously until it starts to be broadcast that this body was found in the condition it was found in. This young girl connects the two. Now, she doesn't know what to do. But luckily, there was a Webster police officer who was almost like a mentor to her.
David Nettles. I was a detective in 2014 with the city of Webster.
She messaged him on Facebook.
I think she felt like she could confide in me.
And said, I need to talk to you. I think I know who did the satanic murders.
I get up from the dinner table, my family's all wondering what's going on. She was very scared and she was very serious, but didn't know if what she was hearing was the truth. So I told her just to wait a minute and let me make a few phone calls. And it was just a matter of minutes where HPD confirmed that they had an active scene and they were looking for suspects.
This crime was solved by a 15-year-old teenager who overheard something and did the right thing.
Do you think if some of these kids hadn't come forward, they would have been able to find Victor and Jose and arrest them as soon, as quick as they did?
No, there's no way that they could have found them that quickly. They had no leads.
And timing was everything.
The very next day, Jose was packing his bag and was telling people he was getting ready to leave town because he knew it wasn't a secret anymore.
Sickening. How could you do this? How could you do it? And then he went home and he bragged. He bragged about doing it. So they knew immediately. They were on it right away.
By then, Officer Nettles had started messaging with Jose Reyes' brother, who wanted to help police too. Hours after Corian was found dead, Jose's brother, who was with Jose's ex-girlfriend, texted Nettles, I just want to do the right thing and do what's best for him, and seeing my mom cry hurt me bad, so I'm deciding to turn him in. Jose's brother confirmed Jose would be home soon, and police moved in.
He was sleeping in his bedroom. They pulled him out of the bed with AR-15s, handcuffed him, brought him out of the residence, and placed him in the backseat of the patrol car.
The sister who Jose was bragging to, that conversation overheard by his ex? Well, that sister would also cooperate with investigators, exposing how her brother said he killed Corianne. At the Reyes home, police photographed pentagrams carved into Jose's bedroom nightstand and kitchen cabinets.
Make no mistake of it, Jose Reyes had a fascination with the devil.
Then took the 17-year-old back to police headquarters where they questioned him for about an hour. What happened between Jose and Corianne that night? What Jose would say was a story about partying, drugs, sex that led to murder. But he wasn't alone with Corianne, Jose told detectives. He pointed the finger at his friend, 16-year-old Victor Ales.
We were back at Homicide, 400 Travis, and interview room number 5.
Victor hit her head with the toilet seat, Jose said. Victor made Jose hold Corianne, while Victor stabbed her with the screwdriver. This Victor Ales, who investigators already knew about.
All right, so Victor.
And they arrested him the morning after interrogating Jose.
Do you want to talk to us today?
The story Victor would tell?
You murdered Corianne with Jose.
I did not murder Corianne.
Well, it would take a while for the truth to come out. But when it did, it was dark.
Present in the room is myself, Mark Condon, Ben Williams, and Lieutenant Zitzman.
Now, former Houston Police Lieutenant John Zitzman sat across from Victor Ales in that small police interrogation room.
Make a decision right now. He was more than happy to cooperate, thinking he was smarter than the 2 detectives in the room.
A calm, reserved Victor, as the officers questioned him about Corianne, admitting he was with her the last day she was seen alive. But over and over, Victor says he had nothing to do with her murder. Right from the start, investigators are clear. They don't buy it.
We know a whole lot of stuff that you don't think we know.
I'm telling you the truth.
No, you're not. We can bicker back and forth all day long, but I need to get through to you somehow. You're not going home after this, Victor. Well, let me tell you what. We had Jose sitting in that exact chair last night for an hour and a half, and he told us everything.
I didn't murder Corianne. How many times do I have to explain to y'all? I didn't do it.
Are we dealing with a psychotic psychopath that we need to put away for the rest of his life so he can't do this to anyone else? Or are we dealing with a kid that made a bad mistake and who maybe deserves at some point down the line a second shot at life? Let that sink in, because this is your one opportunity to save some part of a life for yourself and bring some justice to what was done to this girl, which is flat out horrible.
We finally got boxed into a corner and you realized, man, I can't continue lying my way out of this.
You're telling about this much of the truth, and this is the truth.
So what do you want?
What happened in that apartment? What's your version of it? Because all we got is Jose's version. And he's dropping you in the grease. He's blaming this all on you. Do you think she deserved that? You want to see the pictures?
Yeah, I think you
They're
need to
pretty
take a look
bad.
at what you did.
What happened in that apartment, Victor?
That used to be a 15-year-old girl with her life ahead of her. You did this.
I did not do that.
Yes, the people in court are going to see this, and they're going to know you did it. Those things stuffed into her are going to have your DNA and prints on them.
I did not even touch that. I did not even do that.
What did you do?
I didn't even touch her. I was having sex with her, and then Jose started hitting her. Okay?
And what happened?
He started hitting her with the ashtray. And then I just stood up and I started flipping out. I didn't know what was going on. I was scared. I already have an open case. I didn't know what was gonna happen. I saw him hitting her with the ashtray and she was bleeding everywhere. And the first thing she does is gets up and tells me, she was like, "Victor, why are you doing this?" And I didn't even touch her. I'm telling y'all the truth right now. Jose started hitting her with the ashtray, and I didn't even know what was going on. I just got up. I was like, "What the are you doing, bro?" And then I don't know what he said. I just got up. I walked to the living room, and I'm like, "What the going on?" I just started tripping. I didn't know. Jose started doing that to her.
So you're telling me that Jose did everything, and you just stood there and did nothing?
Yes, sir. I was tripping. I didn't know what was going on.
That's not true. That's not true, Victor.
Yes, it is.
All he's doing is denying, and you're present. You just kind of sit back and listen. And then about 20 minutes into the interview, you say, "Can I throw you a lifeline?"
Yeah, his story was just so unbelievable. And if I just felt like I wanted to stop it. These are your options. Talk to us. Stop this lying. Save yourself.
A switch flipped at that moment, and he does start to talk, and he gives you a little bit more and a little bit more. At that point in the interrogation room, what are you thinking?
I want him to demonstrate to us what he did to the young lady.
After Jose started hitting her, he told me to get the belt, my belt, and choke her because she was going to say everything. I was scared. I didn't think.
So you choked her with your own belt?
Yeah.
Or a belt that you brought?
Belt that I brought.
Do you have a belt on you now, Victor?
Yes, sir.
Take it off for me.
There's my EP belt.
I want you to pretend I'm her. Okay? Show me what you did to her.
Zitzman moves close to Victor. And what happens next, almost a matter-of-fact explanation.
So you're behind her.
Yes, sir.
He's in front of you, you and her. Okay, and what is he doing something to her at this time?
No, he's just telling her to be quiet and to be quiet. And then that's when I just put my belt around like this and I put it in the loop and I just started pulling it. And when she
And did she try to resist?
No, she was just choking. She was just, I was just choking her.
Were you a little shocked when he took off that belt and
Absolutely.
put it around your neck?
Yeah, shocked. I was happy. It was just like, okay, this is.
We're getting somewhere.
We're getting somewhere, and we're gonna make. We're gonna have justice in this. Yeah. As soon as he did that, I realized that we're gonna have justice in this case.
Wow, that was the moment.
Yeah. Did her face turn red or blue or?
It turned blue, and that's when I looked at her, and then I just pulled it off. I was like, I can't do this.
Did she collapse to the ground?
Yeah. She was already sitting on the floor, and then she collapsed.
Did she talk after that, or no more talking after that?
When I took my belt off, she started gasping for air.
Victor told detectives he tossed his belt into a dumpster. They never found it. He says after he choked Corianne, it was Jose who stabbed her with the screwdriver and beat her with the toilet tank lid.
Because that's not what Jose's saying, Victor.
What is he saying?
He's saying you did some of the hitting too, buddy.
I did not hit her. I'm telling you the truth, the honest truth right now.
I think they both partook in this torture.
You think he was lying?
Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah, yeah. I think they were both trying to impress one another, and I think Victor, with Jose visiting the dark side, and I think he wanted to be, hey, look, you did it, I'll do it with you.
Why is Jose telling us that y'all killed her to sell your souls to the devil?
No, that's a lie. I did not. I did not do that. I would not sell my soul to the devil.
But Jose just made that up?
He said he was going to sell his soul to the devil, but I'm not selling my soul.
Victor says Jose drew something on the wall, though detectives never asked specifically if it was that penciled pentagram.
What was Jose's demeanor after y'all left the apartment? Was he happy, sad, angry?
He was saying something about how he was, like, it feels good or something, and I just my mind was in shock. I couldn't even say nothing. Like, I felt like my mouth was shut. I had no comment to nothing.
Did he tell you why he did it?
No, he never told me why he did it.
You combine the goodness of the victim and the age of the victim with the other evil acts of the defendants that are so young, it starts to make you lose faith in humanity.
Later on, you think about those things, the evilness behind this killing and the viciousness behind this killing. How did you grow up to become this person? What happened in your life that you would grow up to think, wow, I got to try this?
Whether it was anger coming from God knows where, Xanax bars and being high, combined with his belief structure. You don't have to necessarily believe in the devil to understand this was an evil act. So it just kind of all made sense. But that's what grabbed the public's attention.
And the more people talked about it, the more friends of Jose and Victor's would come forward, telling police what they knew. Prosecutors were building a case, figuring out how the night started.
What happened in that vacant apartment was sadistic.
And Jose and Victor answered to their capital murder charges, eventually both charged as adults.
17-year-old Jose Reyes looked down at the ground as he faced a judge today.
Corian's family would finally get to look them in the eye.
The only thing that we're looking for is just justice for her. That's what we're looking for.
It makes you question everything in life. Why did this happen to our family? And then I sit there and think, well, if it didn't happen to my family, it would have happened to another family. Like, they were going to do this no matter who it was.
These were her good friends. These were people who she liked.
Really watch who your kids are hanging out with. Because this could have happened to anybody's child.
Imagine from Corian's standpoint, she's upset. And it's just, she doesn't realize, because she's 15 years old, of how this is just a blip in what could have been her life.
The other teens partying with Corian that night before she ended up alone with Jose and Victor in that vacant apartment would do the right thing, it turns out. One by one, telling detectives how Corian's last few hours alive played out. Her friend Randy told police he met Corian after she left home in a parking lot close to her apartment. The two went to another complex so Randy could buy a Xanax pill, Randy said. They smoked pot. Then Victor and his cousin came by. Randy suggested they go to the Bays apartments, to the home of a woman he knew as Candy.
I believe she was in her 40s, and she would let the teenagers go to her residence and party, drink, smoke weed, hang out. And that's kind of where their evening began.
The teens partied at Candy's, then Jose showed up. Corian appeared to be the most drunk, Candy would later tell police. Randy left around 9 p.m., picked up by his mom. Shortly after that, Victor and Jose offered to walk Corian to her friend's apartment, and Candy watched them leave. They never went to that friend's place. Jose and Victor took Corian to the vacant unit. Victor's cousin was with them, but he immediately left. Candy had no idea Jose and Victor took Corian to that empty place, police confirmed. And investigators say both Randy and Victor's cousin were never suspects. Their accounts about leaving early checked out.
What happened after that, being high, being upset, is they, no other way to put it, they ended up in consensual sex. And keep in mind, Courtney, we have to piece together both the physical evidence as well as statements to police, as well as what Jose Reyes told some of his teenage friends to kind of piece it together. At some point, it appears from Jose Reyes' own admission, Corian bit his penis. I deduct from that, at that moment, they were getting rough with her, and she was not consenting to that. So her defense mechanism was to defend herself and to bite him. And that moment when she defended herself and wanted to stop the sexual encounter is when it all began.
The hitting with the ashtray, beating with the toilet tank lid, the belt choking.
Jose Reyes is the one driving this, and that's from all accounts. She then tries to run, and she tries to run outside of that closet, and Jose Reyes himself stops her by clotheslining her.
The screwdriver stabbing, the rods from the window, the brutality of it all.
I don't understand. It's hard.
Yeah, I don't think you ever come to grips or reality with it at all. It's just like you just tuck it away. It's just back there in your memory.
When someone chooses to kill a youth, you kill everything they could become. And the fact that these people who were so evil and did this were 17 and 16 themselves, it's hard to get your head around.
Jose and Victor left Corian's body in that cold, dark apartment. Victor went home. Jose called his sister for a ride.
She doesn't have any money for gas. And so he doesn't know what to do. So you're not going to believe this. He went back to that apartment And he slept in that apartment as Corianne lay there, murdered, tortured, and lifeless.
The next morning, two of Jose's friends, Leo and Miranda, picked up Jose from the Kroger next door. They, too, would eventually turn to police because what Jose said to the couple that day and the days to follow would leave them deeply disturbed.
He explained every detail, and I didn't really believe him.
In an interview with detectives, Miranda said Jose wasn't shy about what he'd done the night before as he graphically explained Corianne's final moments.
He told me that he got a screwdriver, and while the other guy was like having sex with her, he stabbed her. He said he got the thing from the toilet and smashed her head with it, and he said it broke in half, and he got one piece, and he did it more. The way he was saying it, he was like happy about it and smiling and like funny. You know the things that you do with the curtains in the apartments? He got those, and then he stuck those inside of her. He's like, I did it all the way until I felt it. I felt her insides breaking.
And these are the words that came out of his mouth. You're not making this up.
No.
Leo told police he noticed Jose's hand was swollen when they got him from that grocery store.
I was like, what'd you do last night? I was like, who was it? He's like, I don't know. He's like, I don't remember. It's like my hand hurts.
What did Jose tell you about the murder when y'all got to his house? You need to be truthful here, okay?
Like, honestly, I didn't believe him.
What did he say?
He was like, he said that him and Victor did something that night, and I was like, what? He's like, I can't tell you, man. He's like, me and Victor sold our souls.
Days went by before Leo says he knew Jose wasn't kidding around.
I slowly started believing him after hanging out with him because, like I said, we do music. And whenever we would rap, he was only rapping about one thing, like, the whole time, like, one subject. And it freaked, like, not only me out, but, like, some other people that were around us.
What was it?
He was talking about the murder.
Did he mention anything else about any other people being there at the time? At any time did he say anything other than his name and Victor's name being involved in this?
No.
I asked him why. Why would you do this? What did he say? He said something like he ended her suffering and he let her go.
Did he ever say her name?
He said her name was Corey.
It's so horrific, she's thinking to herself, this clearly can't be true. Until days later, when it hits the media,
Upside down cross carved into her stomach.
and she finds out about someone who was tortured, then she connects it. They all connect it.
In the shadow of the Harris County Courthouse, downtown Houston, Corianne's family faced the media. It was all becoming too much. The noise around what had happened, the story had changed. Instead of remembering Corianne, the headlines were about the teens who killed her, about the horrifying things that happened in that apartment. Corianne's father wouldn't accept that.
She always was willing to help people and always was there for people.
But the reality was those details were about to be public, as Jose Reyes was the first of the two on trial.
To believe that that kind of evil exists in this world, in this day and age.
Evil, as Corianne's family puts it, would sit across from them in a courtroom, all evidence laid out for the very first time.
The next few days will be very hard.
It had been 10 months since Corianne was murdered. Jose had turned 18, cut his curly hair short, and put his trust in two attorneys to defend him.
He looked very different when he was in the courtroom. He was very quiet. He was not what I'm sure, cocky, brazen person he was, both the way everybody described him, as well as what I overheard on the telephone calls.
For 10 months, Assistant District Attorney John Jordan had listened to Jose's jail calls and read his jail mail. What he would find was one more thing to use in court against Jose. In one of those letters, Jose writes, "My mistakes are my mistakes. I don't blame no one but the thing that came into my life from the first time I sold my soul. I hope you understand it wasn't me that day. I remember everything, but I know it wasn't me. I couldn't do nothing about it because he was standing there watching me and Victor do our job the way he wanted it to be done. My life is up. I know that I'll come out of this situation."
Even the worst of the worst find Jesus in jail. Not Jose Reyes. I did not see one letter or one phone call where he said, "I can't believe what I did. What was I thinking?"
Another letter to a friend. "I was sick-minded, stabbing that hoe 60 times. Is all good. Is what the devil asked for."
And when I read that, as I am watching his mail, my jaw dropped. I just could not believe it. That it's bad enough that you do what you did to a 15-year-old girl, then months later you're calling her a hoe? It was important for the jury to get that information, to know who he is.
On day one of trial, Corian's family filled the front rows, knowing full well the things they'd hear and see would be sickening. Grandmother clung to her son.
There was plenty of times he, was fidgety in his seat, and I would just reach over and grab his arm. I said, "It's okay. It's okay. Just let it go. Let it go." Some of the questions, that they were asking, I said, "Just let it go."
It's definitely a surreal moment for me, sitting in that courtroom and realizing it's somebody you loved, not just another person you see on TV that's gotten murdered or something has happened to them. It's just somebody you loved, and it's hard.
Her aunt was, I think, the closest to Corian. And, sometimes it takes another family member that maybe is not the parent that becomes closer with a teenager. I feel like with the love that she had, she was going to get through her things she was going through. I have every confidence in the world.
But the trial was not about how much Corian was loved. No, what a jury was about to see was how much she was hated by two teens who were supposed to be her friends. Photos, x-rays, bloodstains, spatter, seeing that screwdriver, porcelain tank, Corian's clothes, hearing graphic details, the timeline, teen testimony. The Cervantes family sat through it all for a week. What they could, anyway.
A lot of times we did leave the courtroom because they said this,
we had to.
Watching Jose Reyes, listening to the torture described.
She literally suffered through that whole process, and you had not one bit of remorse at all.
Because they just smiled during the trial. That's all they did, was just turn around and smile at everybody.
Well, Jose did, definitely.
Jose did, yeah. He did.
Fair warning, the details experts and investigators got into on the stand are chilling. The medical examiner testified Jose gouged the rod into Corian's right eye with so much force, it went through 3 sets of bones. She was still alive, the doctor told the jury. He said Jose also inserted those 29 and 25-inch rods 19 inches into her body, stabbing her with the screwdriver, the medical examiner testified, so deeply, Corian may have bled to death. 61 stabs.
10, 20.
But then actually going through the motion, when you think about it, it's a lot. At what point in your mind did you not stop? I think it went way past satanic and demonic, and it was just pure sick.
DNA analysis showed the handle of that screwdriver, recovered from bushes less than a mile from the murder scene, had a mixture of DNA that could have come from Corian or Victor. DNA found on her sock could have come from Corian or Jose.
I assumed that DNA would be present. I assumed there would be DNA or fingerprints or something on the rods or the commode back. And what was explained to me is Corian's blood, her DNA at that time was so overpowering, it masked any kind of DNA profile we could have gotten. And of course, DNA is different now with mixtures and things of that nature, but back then, 2014, we weren't where we are today. So that's when we pivoted to all those citizen witnesses. We had to corral all of these people.
By now you know that the people who told detectives about what they heard and saw are the backbone of this case. Without them, who knows how long it would have taken investigators to figure out what happened to Corian. But it was one thing to talk to a cop. It was a whole nother to tell the story in court in front of an entire city.
All we ever ask of our teens is just do the right thing, right? They always make poor choices because their minds aren't fully developed. And we just say, when faced with a big deal, just do the right thing. And they all did.
When you look at their age and you see how young they are, that it's amazing that they could do something so brave.
And I wish more kids would have courage now these days to say something when they don't see something right or they hear something wrong.
As Jose Reyes sat in court, one after another of his friends took the stand, testifying against him. Jose's police interrogation interview wasn't admissible because officers mistakenly didn't read him his rights, but jurors still heard from Jose. Not just the jail letters, they saw everything on his phone. 2 days after Corian's murder, investigators say Jose and Victor deleted 86 Facebook messages and started this exchange, talking about how no one's seen Corian.
I don't think teenagers had any idea that those social media sites would provide information to the police.
Finally, the jury had heard it all.
It just seemed like from beginning to end.
Time to decide Jose Reyes' fate.
It's the last place on earth he wanted to be.
4 days of gruesome testimony is finally over.
When you're not ashamed of what you did, when you tell someone about it, you tell people about it.
The total disregard for human life, that she was somebody's daughter.
9 months later, after committing a horrible act and sitting in jail, waiting for U12, he has the audacity to write someone and say, I stabbed the hoe 60 times. She was not a hoe!
But even with that, he just sat there, void of emotion. But should we be surprised?
She was a granddaughter. She was a daughter. She was a niece. She was a 15-year-old girl. A teenager.
She was a precious part of our family.
There's no God in there. There's no empathy in there. There's no feeling in there. Because there's no way he could do those acts. He's just different.
They knew what they were doing. They knew.
And we know he hit her at least 15 times. Think about that.
She was wonderful. She was great. She was bubbly. She just loved life.
We, the jury, find the defendant, Jose Reyes, guilty of capital murder as charged in the indictment. Signed, foreman of the jury.
Just glad the court system worked, and he got what he deserved.
Make no mistake of it, we were able to convict Jose Reyes based on him telling other people.
6 months later,
a jury needed only 30 minutes to
guilty again, this time for Victor Alice.
And it took 24 jurors, 2 defendants, to bring us justice today.
2 teens convicted of capital murder as adults, sentenced to life in prison.
Well, I'm feeling justice for my daughter. You know, that she was vindicated.
It's not justice. Justice for me is doing to them what they did to my niece. That's justice for me. And I mean, I've definitely thought about it multiple times years ago, you know, playing that out in my head, doing what they did to my niece to them. Now I don't so much anymore because it's the anger. You don't want to keep that anger inside of you, but it's never justice.
10 years later, what does justice look like? 3 hours southwest of Houston in Beeville, Texas.
My name is Jose Reyes, and they got me here for capital murder.
In a metal box behind thick glass, shackled at his wrists and feet.
So you know why we're here?
Yes, ma'am.
Jose Reyes agreed to talk with us.
What I'm about to tell you is y'all gonna be shocked because I've held things in that I shouldn't even have held.
Head shaved, covered in tattoos, Jose Reyes isn't the same 18-year-old who came to prison a decade ago. His story has changed too. He's now alleging he's been covering for someone.
This is what nobody knows. I took the blame because I feel like I was being a good friend.
That's right. Jose claims Victor and someone else murdered Corianne while he watched. Despite the fact a jury found him guilty and the fact many of his friends testified Jose told them he killed Corianne. That other person responsible, according to Jose, well, police interviewed him and moved on, determining he didn't play a role in what happened to Corianne that night. But all these facts haven't stopped Jose from now trying to claim otherwise.
How do you expect people to believe this? This is the first time you're ever bringing this up.
Because after 10 years, I've had enough time to sit in here and realize I'm actually not being a good friend for taking his blame. I lied to the detectives, I did, because I was covering for somebody else.
You see how I find that hard to believe, though?
Oh, that makes a lot of sense. I'm going to tell all my friends I did this. I'm going to go to trial. I'm going to face a life sentence. I'm going to be convicted of life sentence, all to protect a friend. I mean, that's ridiculous.
Jose says all those statements to friends and family members were also lies.
Jose, your own sister and your brother Omar both told police that you killed this girl.
My brother never testified, so when did I tell him? If I would have told him, why didn't he testify and my sister
Your brother
did?
texted police, I just want to do the right thing and do what's best for him, and seeing my mom cry hurt me so bad, and I'm deciding to turn him in. He texted a police officer that.
If he did, he did.
He knew you killed her. Your sister knew you killed Corianne. And yet you're sitting here today still not taking responsibility for it when the evidence against you is just overwhelming.
Show me one evidence that says I did it. Honestly, I don't care what my sister or my brother said. I know the truth, and I'm telling you the truth. And if you decide to believe the truth, go ahead. If you don't, guess what? I still know the truth.
Over and over, Jose denied killing Corianne. He says they had sex, but he didn't beat her with the lid of that toilet tank or stab her with the screwdriver. In the eyes of a jury, though, he did.
The abuse went on for an hour. At no point did you think, we need to let this girl go.
What can I do?
Stop it.
I just told you, if somebody is full of drugs that cannot walk, how can I stop something that I can't even control myself?
But you seem to remember everything what happened that night.
I do.
So you were sober enough to remember, but drugged out enough that you couldn't stop it.
You know why I remember everything? Because I think about it daily. I think about how messed up it is.
Do you think about Corianne and what she went through and how she suffered?
I know she suffered a lot, and I'm sorry for that. And I regret that night. I regret even being there, because I couldn't do nothing.
Do you regret what you did to her, that you let her die right there, that you were part of that abuse?
I didn't do anything. That's the thing. You're basically blaming me.
This girl who's dead in front of you, beaten to death, and you're telling me you didn't think anything of it.
What can I think?
The floor is yours.
Only thing I can think is they tripped out. I have nothing to do with it. And it's messed up.
That's cold.
It is. It is cold. But now, the way I think now, I can't think like that no more.
You knew what had happened to her.
Her blood was not in my hands.
In fact, for days, she laid there, her family wondering what had happened to Corianne, and you knew, and you just continued to go on life as normal. What was going through your mind in those days?
I stayed on drugs. I didn't want to think about it. It was wrong. I should have said something.
Do you regret it?
I do.
What about that night set you off to go from having sex with her to brutally beating her?
So what you're trying to say is that I did. A lot of people have been convicted of a lot of things that are innocent.
You've had a decade to be in here to think about that night after you've confessed, after you've been found guilty, and now you're saying they got it all wrong.
Because you're the first person that ever tried to come. You are. Ain't nobody cares. Nobody cares.
I asked Jose if he worshipped Satan, if that was indeed the motive for killing Corianne, a deal with the devil.
I was fascinated with it. It's like when you're a teenager, you see something, you're like, oh, that seems cool. You think it's cool.
Did you kill her to sell your soul to the devil like you told investigators back then?
One thing I'm gonna tell you, there's no such thing as selling your soul. There's not. Trust me.
Why did you carve the cross into Corianne's body?
Why would I do that?
I'm asking you.
I didn't.
But you admitted to investigators back then that you did.
Because I was taking blame for somebody.
It's the same story, just I'm taking blame for somebody.
On and on it went with the denials until our hour was up. Then Jose Reyes went back into his cell, where Corianne's family hopes he lives out the rest of his days.
I honestly believe God got he has the answer to this. I can't tell you when I'm gonna get out, but he's the judge. I don't care what the 12 people said. I don't care what the judge said. He's the judge.
Well, who says he's not going to do it again?
Yeah.
He'll do it again. Why would you even think about letting him out?
You didn't show remorse at the time. You didn't show remorse after. You didn't even show remorse 9 months later when you were writing those letters from jail to your friends or whoever you were writing them to. So what would make me think you would have remorse 40 years later? And even if you did, it doesn't matter. You took a life.
For authorities, Jose and Victor alone are responsible for Corianne's murder.
They should never see the light of day again. And I don't say that in a cavalier way. I understand the ramifications of what I'm saying. But you know, Corianne can't come to life at 55 and live among us. So why should they?
We reached out to Victor Alas, too, who's serving his life sentence in another Texas prison. He initially agreed to an interview, then backed out. His trial attorney didn't return our calls. Both men will be eligible for parole in 2054 when they're in their late 50s.
Why do you think they killed Corianne?
Jose Reyes and Victor Alas may be in prison for the rest of their lives, and there's comfort in that for investigators who work the case. But what they saw still haunts some of them.
This is the most brutal homicide that I've made in my 7 years in Houston homicide.
It truly was witnessing the worst humanity has to offer. How can that not stay with you? And to think that came from a 17 and a 16-year-old, that's what's amazing about it. that's what I will never get my head around. How people that young could have that much anger and that much disregard from someone who moments before they were laughing with, partying with, and even being intimate with. I just don't understand that click.
It's something I choose not to understand. And that's where the anger comes from, and that's why I chose to let it go. Because to me, I'm allowing the evilness, and it's like I'm giving him what he wants. He wants that anger. He wants the evilness. So you have to let it go and move on in some kind of way.
Why do you think they killed Corianne? What's the motive?
I don't know. I do not know. The motive? Wow. Yeah, that's a great question.
What is it like for you as a detective to get someone to admit to the facts and to understand the play-by-play of what led up to the murder, but not know a motive?
It's frustrating, and they never explained to us, what happened back there. What made you think you were going to get away with this? I'd love to sit them down and say, hey, what were you thinking, and why did you do it? Because none of us know why.
When investigators ask you why did you kill her, you told them, I don't know. Is that still your answer? Why did you kill her?
I told him, I don't know, because I took blame for somebody else.
I'm not even offended at him trying to say that he's innocent. I could care less. He is irrelevant. His opinions are irrelevant. What he's trying to float to the world is irrelevant. He's a convicted capital murderer. And I want to suggest nobody pays attention to a word he says, because he is irrelevant. Corianne's relevant.
I don't even care to hear the why anymore. I don't even care to hear anything. Neither one of them have to say. It's like I'm to the point where you did what you did and you suffer the consequences now.
I would hope that he's sorry for what he did to that young lady. I would be shocked if he's going to have any kind of remorse.
What do you want to say to Corianne's family?
That I'm sorry.
For what?
For what happened. It should have never happened.
For killing her?
I didn't kill her. I'm not going to tell them I did it.
I'm just giving you a chance to, come across as someone you say you are, someone who is empathetic and sorry for this. This is your chance to tell the family what you didn't get to tell them in court, which is not that somebody else did it, which is sorry. And you have no, it seems, interest in telling them that.
I am sorry. I regret what happened that day. But I'm not going to admit to them and tell them I did it when I didn't do it.
Getting or not getting an apology, Corianne's family says it doesn't matter.
Nothing you could ever say could justify what you did. Nothing. Like, no amount of apologies, nothing could justify what you did to my niece. It was just so horrific. Like, regardless of what you were doing that night before that, she didn't deserve to die.
A sorry does not do anything. It really doesn't. It does not bring back the person she would be today, or the person she was. I really do hope those guys suffer every single day, or they get tortured in jail, or whatever they do. It's just, it's not okay what they did.
He needs to spend the rest of his life in prison. If he can't, after 10 years, sit down with you and say, hey, something, I did something terrible. And I want to apologize to the family through you. But none of that happened. He's tatted himself up to make him look like a tough gangster, but the only thing you did in your civilian life was kill a little girl. You're in prison talking noise and looking like a bad guy, but you're just that little coward that killed it. You're the same little coward that killed that little girl 10 years ago. So they're exactly where they need to be.
Corianne Cervantes would be 25 years old today.
Seeing who she would be married, where she would be at, what her career would be, what she would be into, like everything. She would have kids, everything.
Her cousin Alana describes life as split into two halves. Childhood with Corianne, adulthood without her.
When she was gone, I really didn't have anyone. And I didn't have someone to sit there and send a message to talk to about things or anything like that.
They took away your person.
Yeah, they sure did. She was like a sister to me.
Time has softened the pain, though. There's comfort for these women in wondering who Corianne could have been, what she would have done with her life.
She would probably be the one that I would be doing things with. Since I always do things with my mom. She would be the one that I would probably be doing everything with, rodeo, all that stuff. So, I know she would be a very beautiful girl. That's all I do know, that if she was here.
Do you think about her a lot?
I do.
Milana grew up differently from the other kids, her mom admits.
Memories come up here and there.
Overprotected. Mom worried a lot.
It's changed the way I raise my children. My oldest daughter probably suffered the most.
I don't trust nobody. I don't go out. If I do go out, I let my mom know. If I don't feel comfortable in a place, I will leave.
She wasn't allowed to go anywhere. It's like even now, I mean, she's 27 years old, and if she's going out and I don't hear from her, it's like, where are you? Why aren't you calling me? Why aren't you texting me? What's wrong?
The rage Katera once felt has subsided too.
And you have to sit back and realize you don't want to be angry, because that's not going to help the situation. It's not going to help me. It's going to make me sick. And it's just, you're going to carry this anger for the rest of your life. So you have to, I don't know the right wording for it, but tuck it inside and try to move forward.
But there is a part of Corianne's story her aunt doesn't want forgotten. For teenagers, question the people you choose to surround yourself with. Who can you trust? Who can't you trust? After all, Corianne went willingly with people who made her feel safe.
Have your guard up. Be aware of your surroundings. And if something doesn't feel right, leave immediately and tell your parents. The people you've been hanging out with for a month, a year, 2, 3 years can easily hurt you as somebody that you just met off the street.
Though, in the end, doesn't good prevail? Outweigh the wicked? Corianne's killers were caught because good people did the right thing.
I love the fact that teenagers got justice for their teenage friend. I love the fact that it was Jose Reyes' ex-girlfriend who overheard it and reached out to a cop who was kind to her that solved the crime. I love it that the 2 people who actually picked him up the next day from Kroger, not realizing what he had done, who were going through their own issues, came to court and testified for Corianne. Maybe this story should read, "Is good did overcome evil." But unfortunately, Corianne is still not with us.
I like these two.
Yeah, this one's cute.
Yeah.
Maybe that's not the end of her story.
Hi, Mr. Jordan.
Oh, God. It's so good to see you.
How are you?
Corianne is still with us a decade later in this room.
Oh.
Where, for the first time since trial,
It's good to see you, too.
Oh, my God. How are you? Oh.
her aunt and grandmother reunite with the man who brought them justice.
We think about you all the time.
Hugs, laughs, and tears, of course.
It's hard to talk to you about it.
I'm sorry, because that's one of the dilemmas of reuniting, is all those wounds come back.
Yeah.
You know?
Remember, the pain is still there, sometimes just as raw. That's part of the bond these people share, something no outsider can understand. No amount of time passed can minimize it. And they embrace it, talk about it, like it was yesterday.
it's a privilege to go into court and to give her a voice and to give y'all a voice, you know. But remember I said that, you know, it wasn't going to give you the closure you expected, but it was a step in the process for the healing, I hope, you know.
Yeah, I guess the way I feel it, it was closure in a way. Like, you feel it when you're there. Like, yes, we got justice. They're going to jail for the rest of their lives. Like, they did this to my family. He got his justice. But then when you leave, you're by yourself. And then you realize, I guess, what kind of justice?
You're so focused on getting it, and then it feels empty, you know.
Yeah, when you leave, it's like, okay, it's over now. So now what?
Now what? Gadara's still asking it 10 years later. There's no answer, really. In some ways, life forever feels in limbo, she says. And that's something she's accepted. Sitting here, together, it's clear that's okay. These people get it.
You are forever my family. Forever my family.
They are Corian survivors.